what's up? I'm Alcox. I make games, play games, and everything in between, and I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me today. If you like this kind of content, be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and that bell, as I'm going to be trying to make more videos like this in the future. Today we're going to be making a game from start to finish with a blank template. Let's see what the final product looks like. I've been making this game on TikTok over the past 2 or so weeks. I'm going to be covering everything today. The way that I like to make games is very fluid. I have a rough idea of what I want, and then I just put it all together. Let's take a look at what we got as the final. Very cool intro. We got the camera moving. Bug number 1, if you use a Mac and you have an external monitor, I have a monitor here and a big monitor over here, you will see this bug. And this bug is basically when you hit play or anything on the screen, nothing works. You have to reload the screen. This is, as far as I know, always been there. I feel bad for anybody who uses a Mac and external monitor, because if you're new to Buildbox and you don't know about this, it's super frustrating. I took a break from Buildbox for about 2 months, and for 2 days I thought everything I was doing was wrong, but it wasn't me. I had just forgotten about this bug. Buildbox has a lot of bugs. That's why it's always important to playtest everything, A and B test every step of the way, because that is the best way to troubleshoot any issues you may be seeing. Reload. Good to go. Now this is a simple game. Spaceship follows a path and we have all these asteroids, and you just move the asteroids out of the way. I had this idea and I wanted to make it, so I made it in a couple weeks, which is the coolest thing ever. In my head the game looked a million times cooler, but being able to make your own game, take an idea and put it on your phone is like a dream come true. This game will be released on Play Store, App Store, so check the links below. That's the game mechanic of the game. Let's create it from scratch now. When I create a game, I always like to create a 3D game brand new, because Buildbox 3D templates and assets, I don't like to use those because there can always be some kind of bugs or something that exists that you may not know about. All these templates you see here are a great reference tool, great for learning, but they were created like 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and nobody's been back to update them. Look at them, and they were only created to accomplish what you see here. This bounce is a really good example, because you can bounce anywhere in this template, not just on that purple square. This was created to look good. You need to keep that in mind when creating with Buildbox, and that is why I always go to create new game and not a template, because I've played around with almost all of these templates and I have a good thorough understanding of how they work. For me, it's more about understanding the nodes and the pieces and how to connect them. Before we get going, we're going to need to grab this space asset. This is the space asset, which is a 3D space sphere, and you can see it over here in the world. And this exists in Buildbox, but you have to jump through hoops to get it. So let's just go to New, Start Wizard, 3D, Portrait. None of these things matter. We're only doing this for one specific objective, and that is to grab the space asset. This is the outer space asset. You click that. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Okay. Now you go here, go to the space asset and select export asset. We got this space YouTube. Okay, cool. So we got that. Now it's exported. Now we can go to new, create 3D game. Do you want to save? Nope. Brand new blank template. Let's go in here and we'll move this to no ground. Let's grab that space asset, drag and drop. We're going to grab this, and I'm going to actually attach it to the camera. That way it will follow the camera. Otherwise the camera will move through the space asset, and that's not what we want. Let's go into the space asset and add a rotation node, connect it, adjust the variables X, Y, and Z plus or minus 5, which is good because it'll be random every time we start and adds a nice feel to the game. We can adjust the positioning later. Let's go ahead and save. I'm going to save it as version 1, because when I create a game, I save all the time. I put the name of the game, the version number, and kind of like what's happening in this saved version, so that it'll make sense to me if I come across it later. This is really important because Buildbox has bugs, issues, and things where if you make an update and you don't know what happened, if something's weird, you need to go back to a version, and that happens to me all the time. Before we do anything, I want to create the UIs. This is going to be the game UI, and you're going to have a game over UI. Let's go into the game UI, and we will add Smart Penguin's frames per second widget. Smart Penguin is a really cool YouTuber. He primarily focuses on Unity these days. Unity is a great game engine, but it requires knowing how to code, which I do not know how to code. I tend to stay away from coding game engines. That being said, if you're new to Buildbox, I always recommend everybody checking out multiple game engines because it's a good idea to have multiple perspectives of how other game engines work. That way you kind of know what you're getting yourself into with Buildbox. Smart Penguin has this frames per second widget, and this is super important, especially on mobile, because there's a lot of things going on and you don't want slow frame rate on your phone. And anyone who has an Android, you need this widget because Buildbox is notoriously bad on Android phone. Yes, if you have one of those top tier phones, you should be good to go. But I know my games don't work well on Android phones. On iPhones, usually iOS 7 and up, Buildbox games work great. You can download this asset for free. Definitely watch this tutorial and check out all of Smart Penguin's tutorials because he has a lot of good ones on there. Let's grab that widget, and this I'll put in the bottom corner. Next, we're going to want an event observer. This will register when there's a game over. So this is a game over observer, game type game over. This label is going to be the scoring system, distance score. The game we're making today will be an endless game. I always recommend anybody new to game development to make an endless game because they're simple to do. Your modern hyper-casual games have short levels that last anywhere between 15 seconds and 60 seconds. Finding the right finesse on that depends on the game itself. Making an endless game is a great way to just get your feet wet, and if your game is fun in endless mode, it's gonna be fun with levels. Let's grab this navigation button. Now I put this up here. This is for me when playtesting. This is gonna be a secret restart. Go to function, restart. We got the score system event observer. We can see the 3D has a UI output, put that here. And then the game over is connected like this. Let's go into the game over, grab some labels. This can be best score, and we can do current score. Actually, let's just do best score and current score. I don't like the way this font works, so we're gonna go to tools, font editor, deselect gradient, and let's get this font and select silver, not too white. I'm gonna press D to copy, and from here we can set the function to score. Let's set the current worlds, score type points, amount best. Go to current, press D to copy, and select function to score, and then select the score type to points, amount current. Let's line these up, and down here we'll put the word replay, and over everything we will add a navigation button. Some people like to make the buttons just over on the word replay like this, and then you can click anywhere, but you have to select here in order to replay. I don't like that. I like it so you can press anywhere on the screen and it will automatically replay. This will become your own taste and time. You'll develop it. Until then, just do whatever is easy and comfortable for you. Set the button to restart. We'll move that down to the bottom layer just so nothing weird happens. Let's go ahead and save it. Made some changes. Buildbox can crash at any minute. It's very unpredictable. Looks like everything's working fine today, but you lose everything a few times, and then you'll always be cautious. See how this looks. We got the world, background, space. Okay, let's get some assets. Let's go to the asset library. We're gonna be grabbing a lot of things today. Let's grab a sphere, and this will be placed over here on the left side. And now let's go to assets. There's a lot of cool space assets, and I'm gonna grab a lot of planets. We're making a space game. I'm a big sci-fi fan, so get some satellites. And as you can see, they just get imported to the left side. Super easy. Get the spaceships. We're gonna be using all these space stations and satellites. I got this, and we're gonna be using all these space stations for almost like every level, adding different visuals, and get some aliens too, and some asteroids. This is an asteroid game, and here we can see some meteorites. I actually don't like these. I think they look way too voxel, and since this is an exploding asteroid game, I went to YouTube and found this tutorial on how to make rocks, and I used it to make asteroids, and I made multiple asteroids. So we'll be using my asteroids because it's always cool to use something you create. Blender is a great 3D modeling software that's free. If you've never used it before, spend a lot of time trying to figure it out. I only open it up once every couple of months. It is very useful, especially when you don't like the meteorites and you're making a game about meteorites and asteroids in space. That took me a couple of hours to make all the asteroids. Let's grab these OBJs. I have several of them, and let's start dragging them in, drag and drop. The asteroids are on the game screen. I will remove them. You can see that they're being imported on the asset panel on the left. Let's go ahead and delete these cubes as well. This is the start screen. Let's grab a spaceship and move it up here under character. This is where every world will load at the very beginning. Do not start creating your level right here. That would be a bad idea. You want to set the introduction to your game right here on the start scene, and in this game we're going to have the character follow a path. So let's look at the start. This is set to 4. I don't like it at 4, so I put it to 0, and the end we'll move it to -50 for now, and you can see this is where the start is and where the end is. And once the spaceship gets to the end, then it'll go into a new level or scene right here. Set this new scene, start at 0 and end at, let's do 50 for now. Let's go ahead and set up the character right now. First thing we want to do is set the physics to kinematic, and we're going to want to grab a path node. So there's a path node here, however this path node is buggy, and what I mean by that is, watch, we'll set it up, go here and add scene path, and go down here to scene path. You can see the path get created here. There's a small line, very hard to see, and we'll add it also on level 2. I found a bug on this path node that causes issues. Specifically, it doesn't let the scenes randomly rotate and causes the character to stop and not move. I like to label these scenes level 2, and this will help give a visual representation of what we're doing when we're playtesting. So we go to the start and place the character, and I'm going to make this character a lot smaller because the smaller size we use, it'll help with the processing power in the future. Hopefully that's the idea. As you can see, the spaceship is facing up, which is not the correct direction. The best way to make a change isn't in the scene, but in the character nodes. We're going to go to start rotation, change it to -90, go to 3D model, also change the rotation to -90 so that it's facing down, along with the start node, because that's where the collision shape is, and we want these things to line up. Let's make sure he's in the middle, set the speed to 10, and there he goes. We need to adjust the camera as well. To do that, go to start mode, select camera. We're going to want the camera to follow the character and position and rotation to follow the character. The cool thing with this is with the path node, we can rotate it around, and that will cause the camera to rotate as well, which adds a cool effect. For render distance, I'm going to put that to 3000. Seems kind of high. Save it and test it. We went from the start to level 2, and then it just finishes. Player stops. This is not what's supposed to be happening, and this is a bug with the path node. Let's save it and grab an old path node. Let's go to Buildbox, hit new, choose template. Twisted Switch is using an old template that actually works for the game that we're trying to create. This path node is what we want, so what we're going to do is select export character asset, and we'll open up the previous file we were working on. If this seems kind of annoying, it's because it is, but when something doesn't work in Buildbox, try to look at other places you've seen it work and see if you can apply that to your game. I was confused for like 2 or 3 days on what was going on when it came to the scenes not being random and rotating, and I thought it was me, but it was the Buildbox nodes. I don't like to wait on Buildbox to support to come back at me, because most of the time they don't have a solution and I prefer finding my own solution, and that's exactly what I did here. So let's go grab this and bring it here, and then get this path node, copy, go into the character, delete this one, paste, and now let's put the position. -1 puts it to the left and 0 puts the character in the middle. And here we can see it's working fine. We got level 2. It continues from one scene to another scene, level 2, level 1. We can see that they're rotating, good frames per second, it's working. So let's go ahead and save it now. Obviously we don't want the spaceship flying around a white path. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some texture. To do this, I've created a yellow line, and grab it, PNG, put it over here and see a visual of what it looks like. We're going to make it skinnier right now. We're going to move it to 0.05 for the X and Y. Go over here to the scene path and select the yellow line. If you notice, I don't change the Z, and that's because we're going to have the path move around, and if you set to Z to a small amount, it affects the way the spaceship moves. Leaving the Z at 1 adds better rounded curves for when we create cooler dynamic levels down the line. Until then, we need to do this scene path. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and make this second level a template. That way when I'm creating levels later, I can just copy and paste it, and all the scenes, path, and endpoints are all set up, and I don't have to keep doing this over and over again as I make many levels. And we can rename this accordingly. And copy. Buildbox makes it super easy to copy the scenes. Just press D to copy. I've been noticing a lot of bugs in the animation editor down here when trying to make adjustments and copy. I'm on version 3.3.5. Let's take a look, and we can see the path moving. We can see the space in the background is also rotating. We are off to a good start. The big thing there is to see the scenes randomly switching, because we're creating an endless game, and that is the effect that we want. Next, let's take a look at the asteroids, and let's go ahead and put some of these in the levels. As you see, they all look a little different, adding a nice variety. Now, I don't want to put them in the path because I want the player to understand how to play the game and not die immediately. The way this game works is you can touch the asteroids and move it out of the way. I think it's kind of unique. I think it's a unique style that hasn't been done before, at least not that I've seen. Now, to do that, let's go into the asteroids, and we're going to grab some movements. Is touch node and touch move node. This way when you is touching the asteroid, it touch moves. Very cool. This mode is set to ABB. I don't know what the raycast is, so I don't mess with it. Now the sensitivity on this is way too high. One of the reasons I always stress testing a game you're making on your phone immediately, I always see comments from people who have spent a lot of time creating their game, and when they go to test it on their phone, and there's all kinds of issues. Now when you do that, it's really difficult to work your way back to find out what the issue is. But if you test it along the way, all along the way, you can easily see that the sensitivity of 1.5 was way too high. The first time I tested on my computer, the sensitivity was okay, but then the second I tested on my phone, it was way too high, so I knew I had to bring it down. For this, set it to 0.25, 0.25, smooth to 1. We want the screen wide to be worldwide. What that means is the Y direction is up and down, and the Z direction is back and forth. What we want is when you touch an asteroid, it moves up or down. We don't want it to move back and forth. Now, if that's what you want, adjust this accordingly, but that's not what I want. And invert Y means up is up and down is down. These settings look good. You can always select a pin, which means you can adjust the settings individually in each scene, which is a really cool thing to do when you're getting really custom. The next thing I want to do is add some colors, some shades, gradients to the asteroid. Grab this random node of 5 and set color. I want there to be a variation between different asteroids of how they look when they're spawned. So instead of black, let's go silver, magnesium, aluminum, tin. Okay, cool. And then the asteroid has 1 out of 5 chance to be one of these different colors. Let's go ahead and save it. Let's take a look at the start. We want the physics to be dynamic and affected assets to be all. Let's change the collision shape to be sphere and shape always visible to be on. on. And let's select shape always visible, and here we can see if I set the collision shape to 222, we can see the shape right here. Before we change anything here, we want to go to the node maps, select the world, and let's get rid of the gravity in Y and change it to 0 because we're in space and we don't need gravity to happen. And let's add fog too, because I always like fog. Change this to 2500 and the fog distance to 3000. And all these settings I've kind of played around with, and I strongly recommend that you play around with it yourself so that you can see what you like and what works best for you. Another cool thing to do with the asteroid is to just have it randomly rotate by grabbing this random node and connecting it. What's important here is we want to turn off cast shadow and receive shadow, and put the incandescence to 0.5, spectacular intensity to 0.5. With this rotation node, we can have it randomly rotate in random directions in X, Y, and Z. Before I forget, in the touch move node, we need to deselect follow rotation, because if you don't do that, if the asteroid moves like this, that'll also move the X and Y axis of the object, making the asteroid not move up or down, but in whatever direction it may be spinning in, and then move in that direction, which means it could move forward or backward, which is not what we're going for in this game. Go ahead and save it. Lastly, all asteroids, and in fact all objects in this game, are going to be enemies except for the main characters. So we need to add a if collide and put it to if collide with enemy, and affected asset enemy, add a debris explosion node, and then a remove node. So if this asteroid comes in contact with any other enemy or another asteroid or spaceship, satellite, space station, it will explode. Let's move it down here like this. Now we don't have an asset for the debris explosion. Let's go ahead and do that now. The asteroid debris will have 10 explosions. Let's go to the 3D world. Let's use the sphere as a 3D explosion. So let's go into this sphere and rename it debris explosion sphere. Collision group none. We want to set this none as well because it's just going to be the explosion. We don't want it to take up any more processing power than is needed. Let's remove cast shadow and receive shadow, and I'm going to set it to shadeless, and what that does is it makes it look like this. As you can see, just a simple white ball that has no shade. Now the cool thing here is we want to add some color animation to give it kind of a fire explosion look to it. First, let's grab this random node and color animation nodes. This is very similar to what we did before. Change the duration to 0.1, and let's set this up. First color, we want kind of orange. Second color, gray smoky, and then third color, maybe a pastel yellow. Do another gray. So we got gray, light gray, orange, a yellow, and let's try another orange. Maybe something like that. See how that works? Okay. What happens here is when the debris explosion happens, it will spawn this asset, and this asset will go to one of 5 colors. And in this example, it'll spawn 10 of them. So 10 random objects will be created. Each one will have a random chance of being one of these colors, and when it becomes that color, it'll actually filter through like this, changing from one color to another color, all in 0.1 seconds. And we're gonna add a delay node and a remove. The reason you want to do this is after 0.5 seconds, you'll have 10 objects instantly created, and if you don't remove them, then they're just going to take up processing power, and depending on how many explosions are happening on the screen, it can dramatically slow your game down. This ensures that once they're created, that they will be removed. Let's go ahead and save it. Let's go into the asteroid, select debris explosion. I'm going to deselect preserve momentum. Remove a move node in the debris explosion sphere. When each debris explosion is created, all of them will move in a random 25 XYZ direction and scatter, and that will look really cool. Let's go in the asteroid to the debris explosion, select debris explosion sphere, and save. Always important to save your projects. And let's go into the start template and put these asteroids next to each other side by side, and we're going to select solo mode just so we can play the scene over and over again and test accordingly. Okay, looks like they didn't explode. Let's go here, press D to duplicate, and now we're going to be testing it over and over again. Let's see if collide with enemy. Yes, all the asteroids are not set to enemy, so let's go here, collision group enemy, and save. Now if they touch, we need to reload. Here's the Mac bug. Again, if you use multiple screens, you gotta reload. Okay, they're not exploding. I think there could be an issue with the collision sphere. The if collide collision shape scale set to 222. Oh, there's a bug. Okay, cool. It looks like it's working. Great. We need to keep in mind that the if collide is set to collision shape sphere. Now you can add the mesh. The problem is we have a lot of objects and sometimes the meshes work well and sometimes they don't. So we're just keeping it simple here. Asteroid looks good. Let's go ahead and select all these nodes. There's a lot here, and copy. Let's go to asteroid number 2 and paste. Now we just need to connect everything, and this will transfer all the things we did in asteroid 1 to asteroid 2. This is a monotonous process, but it's the price you pay for not coding, and I'm okay with that. Let's do this again and go through all of these. The sooner we're done, the sooner we can save. Look over here to the right. We can see that the if collide collision, which is set to always visible, is way too big. We're gonna need to go back and update these, but right now let's just connect all the nodes. I'm gonna try to adjust these on the fly. The ability to copy and paste all the nodes is a new feature in Buildbox 3.3.5. To me, this is kind of game changing because before you had to copy one at a time, which is not a problem, but here you can see the big impact of being able to copy multiple nodes at once. Like, it's game changing. Again, there's multiple ways I could have done this. I could have just copied one of the asteroids and then changed the asset of the asteroid, but then I wouldn't have been able to show you this cool new feature. And save it. Let's go into the start, and I'm going to add some font here. This is going to be the intro to the game and a tutorial for players on how to play the game, and I'm just going to literally tell players how to play the game by reading and playing at the same time. So swipe asteroids away from spaceship. Let's put this at -15, this to -20, and I'm doing this in increments of 5. Let's take a look. I feel like it's a little bit too squished. Yeah, way too squished. Let's go ahead and move this end point to -75, because if the player doesn't know how to play the game from the get-go, then they won't have a good experience, and that's not going to happen. And well, at least we're going to try our best to not let that happen. And you know what? The spaceship looked like it was moving a little fast, so let's move the speed to 7. I think everything needs to be a little lower, so let's select all the fonts and lower them down. We can just put them at -Y3. See how that looks. Okay, you can't even see the word spaceship. Let's test it again. I feel like the words could be further out. I feel like also the camera is maybe zoomed in too much. So I like to select the camera over here in what's called the outlier, and then select the camera button up here in the nav bar. This is the view the player sees on their phone. I'm going to set this to 15Y and set the Z to 15, move it back a little bit, move this down to 27. I'm not sure what the field of view is, so let's see what 30 does. Okay, yeah, so 50. Always a good idea to play around with different settings and see what you think looks cool. If you always do the default, you're missing an opportunity to learn the ins and outs of how things work. Let's go ahead and move this to 55. Deselect the camera button. Always be careful when selecting and deselecting the camera button because there is no Control Z here, and I've made a lot of mistakes. The cool thing about this is we can see the font here and it's way too much in the center, and we can move them around, move that down. Yeah, and it just looks cooler like this. Move that to the right. There we go. And the next thing we want to do is add some more asteroids. The idea here is to line these up. So this is at -17. Set this to -17. And let's do that for a couple of these. Let's grab these and set it to -27. And I'm putting the asteroids a distance of 2 behind the words. Put this to -37 and set this to -47. I want these to be aligned so that when you're playing and swiping in the intro, you see how the game mechanic works. Some of them exploding, some of them are not. Only the first asteroid is set to enemy, but we need to do that for all of them. So let's let's go ahead and do that. Oh, there's the bug again. Gotta reload it. Sometimes they explode, sometimes they all explode, sometimes only one explodes. Not exactly sure why. Overall, looks good. Let's move these fonts up a little bit and see how that looks and feels. Swipe away from Asteroids. Cool. I do feel like it happens all very quickly. Where is this -15 and the end is over here? So let's just grab everything, including the words, and I'm gonna put a lock on the space and move everything back. There we go. See how that feels. And okay, cool. A little bit more natural. Looks like we're missing Asteroids at the end. Right here after spaceship, there's not one, so let's just add some. Cool, and save. The spaceship kind of just looks like it's floating in the air, and we have way too much space in the upper area up here, which is not good. So let's tilt the camera a little bit down. That's a little bit better. And the spaceship kind of looks like it's just floating, so let's create some exhaust. This is very simple and fun to do, and to do that we're going to want to grab the spawn node, and we want to spawn an object. Whenever you spawn something, you want to make sure you spawn something from the asset panel and not spawning the object itself, because if you spawn an object within the object, you'll create an endless loop, and Buildbox will hopefully not let you do this, but in previous versions it would let you do that and crash. Make sure you're always spawning a new object. If you're having issues with spawning, try spawning different objects and see if you have the same issue with different objects, and that's a good way to A/B test in terms of spawning objects. I have this ball I created. I call it a PolyBall. I use this in my game Ball Meets World, and I think Rolling Balls is another game I created. I created this in Blender. Here's what it looks like. Let's go ahead and delete it from the screen because we have it over here. This is going to be the exhaust, so we'll set the collision group to none, physics to none, as it's just the exhaust. Removing the shadows. That being said, I do want a similar effects that I have to the explosions. Let's go to the debris explosion, select all these nodes, copy, and go into the PolyBall and paste it. Now it has all those settings and I don't have to redo it. When the space exhaust gets created, we're going to want to eventually remove it and have it scale animation down before being removed. We're going to want the scale to go to 0. I never know if I need to select the is delta or not. Set the timer to 0.5. Once it gets super small, it gets removed. Connect the nodes, and let's call it exhaust. Let's go into the spaceship, select spawn. This is cool. We can have the position offset be in multiple locations. We're gonna want the exhaust to be behind the spaceship. So I'm gonna put one, it's either 1 or -1. We'll see in a moment. I'm gonna put these to 0.15, 0.15, so that it sputters all around behind the spaceship. And here, let's select the exhaust. Let's see how this looks. Let's save it. I always like to save before I preview, just in case something crashes. Okay, let's see, just did it one time. We need to add a timer, and we'll set it to every 2 seconds plus or minus 1 second. Let's see how that looks. Okay, not good. Let's do timer 0.5 and plus or minus of 1. Okay, right now it's just way too big. Let's go to the 3D model and make the scale 0.25 so the object is a lot smaller. And let's put that timer to 0.25 plus or minus 0.5. There we go. Now that's probably too much, but we can adjust that over here. Let's do 0.25 and 0. Definitely need faster, 0.05. And I'm gonna change the scale to 0.5 because now I think the exhaust is too small. Okay, that's much better. Let's put the scale to 0.35, and we can see the position is sputtering behind, which is cool. I think 0.075 might be a good compromise. No, you know what, 0.5. And when these objects are created, the scale animation happens in 0.15 seconds. It's actually happening too fast, so let's do 0.15. We can see the exhaust is always spawning randomly. Put the timer to 0.075, might be a good compromise. Now, let's try 0.5. And when these objects are created, the scale animations see what 0.15 does for the time duration. Okay, that's way too fast. So let's do 0.5. And I don't see it getting smaller, so I'm going to deselect the is delta. I don't think it's going to do anything, but okay, yeah, there we go. So that does help, and that looks better. I think the object is still a little bit too big, so let's go 0.4, and yeah, that looks good. Save it and take a look at the gameplay. Got that bug as per usual, so gotta reload. Wiping looks good. I would prefer both asteroids to explode, but better than nothing. Okay. Another thing I'd like to do is have the intro look a little bit cooler, and that's really easy to do because I'm gonna go grab these space object, grab the space. This is called a space station. Interesting. So let's go ahead and duplicate 1, 2, and go into these. Change it to none, and just get rid of cast shadow and receive shadow. Keep the mesh. We're gonna make a cool looking kind of like space stations, and we do that by placing these objects here. Copy this one. I'm just gonna go in and kind of try to make like a cool launch pad for a spaceship. Rotate it around. The more you use Buildbox, the better you'll be at creating things on the whim. Pro tip here, whenever you're rotating an object, hold down the shift key and it will move them at 45-degree angles like this. And you can see that it sticks instead of moving like this. This is just helpful when you're creating quickly and you want everything to be accurate. I also, for level creation, I sometimes go to up here, snap mode, which is something I use. Then when you go to snap mode, you want to go to the world and adjust the grid size. It will move everything accordingly onto the grid like this. You can see the grid in the background right there. But we don't need to do that yet. This is something I used a lot when I was creating my game Ball Meets World, where I have intricate levels where the ball moves in a 3D world. So check out that game. It's available now on iOS and Android on App Store and Play Store. And then let's grab this one and move it like. I'm also using hotkeys. For hotkeys, you can change up here. It says 1, 2 for rotation, 3 for size, 4 for the multi-select. I mainly just jump between 1 and 2. Once you get used to the hotkeys, you'll find what works best for you. Here, I'm just trying to add like a cool little intro at the very beginning of the level to give you the feeling of flying off into space from like an even bigger spaceship, but I want it to look cool. I think something like this is cooler. Control Z, select, and 1 for rotation. Okay, cool, put that there, that one there, and let's see how that looks. Yeah, not bad. I like them to be touching a little bit more because you can see the space. This is at -4, this is at +4, it's at 7. It's too much. Let's try 8. And as you can see, I'm trying to create a symmetry to it all. And then I also have some cool missile turrets. Let's do one of these, make this one smaller. And these are just small details that add an extra layer of polish. I can even go into this weapon and grab a rotation animation. The difference between a rotation animation and a rotation node is the green nodes are constant movements, while the red nodes is a single action movement. Let's see what a Y of 45 looks like. Okay, so that looks good. And I'm gonna also add a random node here. We can have Y of 45 and Y of -45. Okay, physical, none. The shadows are fine. Let's see how it looks. That works, and let's add some cone in the asset library. I think cones look really practical on a spaceship, I guess. Where is it? There it is. Grab some cones, move it up, make it a lot smaller. Now the cones kind of look a little bit too big. Let's try 0.35, X, Y, Z. Okay, cool. Zoom in. I love moving around in a 3D world. It is one of my favorite things to do. And now let's add some little dudes. Whoa, that's a big dude. 0.15, still too big. 0.05. hotkey 2 to rotate, and let's put him over. Then let's create another one, and we can have this dude just over here, maybe kind of looking at the spaceship, and maybe another astronaut as well. Add a little bit of variety and put him over here next to the darker color so there's better contrast. Add some more dudes. Easy copy and paste, gotta love it. And let's have this dude talk into a 3-headed alien. The alien a little bit bigger, and let's check it out. And we got the bug, but that's okay. All right, we got the intro looking great now. I have these templates, and let's start creating some levels. Level 1, the end path is at 50. Before we start creating, I want to just grab a bunch of asteroids and put them in this template scene. I actually don't like those asteroids. I like these a little bit better because they're more rounded. And let's make the size of these a little bit smaller. 0.4, decent. The start is at 0 and the end is at -50. Let's go ahead and put the end at -66. From here, we can just start putting in some asteroids, see how that looks. So the first level is going to be super easy, and I'm going to grab this template, and these are the same asteroids, but they're smaller. I found for the look and feel of the game, having more asteroids kind of makes the player keep their attention on the game. The asteroids won't be in the path to kill the character, but the player doesn't know that. And actually, can the character die? Looks like the main character doesn't have if collide with enemy, game over. So let's add that now. If collide with enemy, that looks fine. Defeat. From here, we're going to want to add an event observer, and this event observer will be event game over. This will register in the game UI here and cause it to go to the game over UI, and then this button will restart the game. Check to see if that works, and we can just move an asteroid in the way. Game over, but we forgot to add an explosion, so let's do that right now. Debris explosion. We don't want to remove the character, we just want a debris explosion. Copy and paste that, and we should also add a delay node. That way some time will go by, like 0.5 seconds, 0.25 seconds before the game over screen happens, giving it enough time for this explosion to happen. Yeah, let's do 0.35, and we'll have 25 pieces of debris. Let's see how this looks. Oops. Yeah, looks good. Try it again. Okay, he busted through that one. 1 out of 2, that's close enough. And let's save it. So we got level 1. Level 2, let's start adding some space stations, satellites, and planets. But before we do that, we need to categorize all these correctly, and we want to do that by making them enemies. I'm going to call this space debris because that box does not look like a space station. All right, and the physics should be set to dynamic. This is a manual process and something that's unavoidable because we are working with a no-code software. Between you and me, this is better than coding. So there's that. Collision group set to enemy. This way, if any enemy touches an enemy, we'll have debris explosion happen, which will look cool, and yeah, it kind of reinforces the game mechanic of moving objects away from the spaceship with your finger. Because we are setting all these to dynamic, we will want to make sure we remove the cast shadow and receive shadows, and we're going to do the same thing for the planets as well in terms of making them enemies. Get rid of all the cast shadows on these objects. We want to have the best processing speed available. We can always go back and add it if we want to kind of play with the lighting or whatever, but as for now, it's only going to slow the processor down. When I create a game on the fly, I usually do all this stuff from scratch and figure it out as I go, but since I've already spent a few weeks creating this game, and this is a recreation of that game for educational purposes, it makes it easier knowing that I've already done this. This being said, I want the incandescence and the spectacular intensity for all these objects set to 0.5. Again, copy and paste. We are using a no-code software. Then I need to save it because this is a lot of work. Okay, save. For the satellites, we're going to go to the asteroid and copy is touch, move. If collide with enemy, remove explosion debris. Let's go there. For this explosion, we have 10 pieces of debris, and for the satellite, let's go in. Actually, let me close all. This top navigation bar, I think is what it's called, it gets super crowded, and I'm gonna Command W, and it's just gonna close a bunch of them. Okay, let's go in and check out the satellite, copy, paste. If collide with enemy. Here we can see that, yeah, that's way too big. Always check the scale. That's why I like to have this check mark checked so that we can see what's happening. And it looks like we're probably gonna want a cube. But if this one needs adjustment, that means they all need adjustments. So physics, we're gonna want this to be dynamic. And let's give it 15 pieces of debris. So it's more than a simple asteroid. Physics set to dynamic. Okay, select all these, copy and paste. Let's go to satellite number 3 and connect the dots again. This way when we place the satellites into the scene, they're already active just like the asteroid. You can touch and move them. Let's double check that touch move, make sure this looks good. And we can add a little bit more friction as well, so it's a little bit more difficult to move. Cool. And I'm always looking down over here to make sure that the collision shape is there. We will adjust that later because we have to. Next, let's grab this if collide with enemy and debris explosion. And let's do it onto the planets. We may add is touch to the planets so you can move the planets, just making it super difficult. But actually, yeah, let's go ahead and do that right now. Easy way is to just set it like this, and we set it to 0, 0, 1. And so you can move it, but it's just super tough. Basically, like there's no movement, and then we can even up the friction to 1. Blow up a planet, there should be 50 pieces of debris. Copy and paste all this to all the other planets. And I realize I haven't been checking out the if collide, because we're dealing with planets, we want the collision shape to be a sphere. Here you see you can't even see it. This collision shape is a cube, it needs to be a sphere. All of these need to be spheres. Because we can't see the collision shape in this little image over here, it's probably inside there. Meaning the collision shape is inside the exterior, and we will need to fine tune this later. You can go in here and select mesh and then find the object itself. However, when you have multiple collision meshes, sometimes it's weird on how the if collide with enemy and explosion gets triggered. So we're not going to make those adjustments yet because you want to fine tune it. Not all sizes work for all the different planets, and we'll be taking a deeper look into that later. Right now we just want to get the overview of these planet nodes set up properly so that I can place them into the game and they work more or less correctly. Let's go ahead and save it. It's been a little bit. Save planet nodes updated. I can't remember, did I already do this for the space stations? No, so we'll just do the space stations next. Once we have all the objects set up more or less correctly, we can just kind of plug and play and create cool levels. And again, I'm always looking over here because we're going to need to adjust all of these when the time comes. All right, space station, let's do this. Here, I'm gonna set the space station to 0.05, so it's not as difficult to move, but it's still pretty difficult to move like a planet. And yeah, let's do 35 pieces of debris. Sounds good. And let me go and check to make sure all of these are set to enemy. Okay, good. We cannot see the collision. That's a little bit suspicious. Oh wait, select that. And if you notice there was a slight bug here, let me show you again. You click here, you don't see anything, and you click, oh, and now it just worked. Sometimes you need to go into this little area and move it around so that the shape always visible becomes visible. And remember, the start has a collision shape and the if collide has a collision shape, and the start collision must be triggered in order for the if collide to be triggered. Meaning if you have a really big if collide collision shape and a small start collision shape, it may not cause the debris explosion to happen. Be sure to test this all the different ways for the effects of what you're looking for in your game. And you don't need to make a space game. You could easily do any kind of object on a path, kind of like Rise Up with the balloon or a pizza, I don't know. You can use your imagination. Again, we're gonna go through all those objects individually to test the collision shapes once we are done setting up the internal node system. Oops, no, that goes there. This is space debris, and we can increase the movement on this, I think. In my previous test, there were issues with the frame rate slowing down because of these objects. That has something specifically to do with the collision shape and the mesh. Pay attention. That's why playtesting objects individually and looking at the frame rate is very helpful so you can see what is actually causing an issue. I see a lot of time people asking questions, legitimate good questions. The best solution to a lot of these questions are to find a way to test little pieces and see where there could be a possible resolution. And in my case, I'm talking about frame rates, which are ridiculously important because, as we know, Buildbox works pretty well on iPhone 7 and above, but only works well for a few Android phones. The Premier phones, I think they're called. Again, is that we don't see any shapes over here. That's not a good thing. Save it. Got all these objects set up, and now we're just going to go over the collision shapes. Look at the asteroid 1. See, it's over here. Make this asteroid a little fatter, along with this one and this one. Notice the collision sphere around all of these. They look good more or less. This one looks a little bit off. Asteroid 3. So collision shape set to cube. That is not accurate. Okay, it's not bad, but let's go ahead and make it sphere. Kind of want to see what I did in this. For all the asteroids, I'm going to go ahead and update the start collision shape to the actual mesh itself. Here we go, start, collision shape, mesh is asteroid number 4. And we want the scale to be 1, 1, 1, and then that will be able to put the collision shape around the asteroid like a glove, which will make any collision easily register, then causing the if collide to enemy to also then register. So start, mesh, asteroid 0, 1, right, there it is. Select that, and now we're going to play test again. I do playtesting all the time because I find when I make a change when I'm developing a game, sometimes these small changes have big unforeseen effects and I'll need to reload to my previous save point, because when you're going in and making changes on the fly, you can easily make a mistake and you don't know what you did and you don't know how to get back, and that's why I always save multiple versions. So let's test this and make sure everything looks to be working. Looks good. Okay. Again, I like it when they both explode at the same time. But sometimes that doesn't always happen. Cast and receive shadows, that should be disabled. Intensity and incandescence should be set to 0.5. So let me actually do that. And if collide, here we go with enemy. Let me change the incandescence and intensity for all the objects and remove the shadows. Save it and then try the mesh for the if collide with enemy. My concern is that when you have the start mesh, the same as the if collide mesh, sometimes it doesn't register, and we're gonna test it all along the way, because if it doesn't register, we'll just go back to a basic collision shape of a sphere. But if it does register, that's good. And the incandescence and spectacular intensity gives the objects a more of a cartoony type feel, a low polygon atmosphere, which is what I'm going for in my game. If that's not what you're going for in your game, play with the settings and find what works for you. Let's save it. Asteroid, start, mesh. Okay. Now let's try it. Where is the if collide? Somewhere. If collide with enemy, affected asset. No, here we go. If collide with enemy, collision shape. Let's try the mesh. We're on asteroid 7. Okay, it looks like we need to go in individually. Oh, and you can see it's too big over here because we got the scale on double time. Let's play test this and see if it still works. Okay, you see that? You see how it doesn't always work? So that's what I was worried about. And yeah, no, you can see that's no bueno. Go in and let's load from the previous version. Let's go in, grab the asteroids again. Now let's just make sure that we can see the collision shape around the if collide for all the objects. Here I don't see anything, so I'm just going to move it to 3 and we'll start to see something. Yeah, I actually think 3 works well here. If collide, and again we don't see anything, so let's just jump to 3. Alright, 3 is too high, so 2.5. And we just need a ballpark, we don't need it to be perfect. That being said, move the position up a little bit, maybe 0.25. There we go. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, see, some of these asteroids are just too skinny. Okay, that looks good. Last one. Okay, cool. Save it and playtest. We're gonna need to do this for the spaceships, for the planets. It's a little bit of a pain, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So again, sometimes they both explode. And here we see a higher probability of both asteroids exploding, which is what we're going for. Not that one though, not that one. Nice. Okay, so we got the intro. Let's try to do some cool stuff with this level. So we got the start and end. I'm gonna put the end at 66, and then I'm going to select the start and select path point and put this at -33 in the middle, and we're gonna change the scale to 0.05 and Y to 0.05. I think that's what we have on the start and finish. Yep. So that just makes it all smaller, and now we can just go ahead and move this over like this. And then we can go ahead and press D to copy this one, name it number 3, make this one go to -15, copy again, level 4. We can move this to up over here, going at like that kind of angle. Before we do that, let's just get your basic up, down, left, right, or northwest, south, east. There we go, -15. And then we have 6 be up here, and 7 be down here, level 7. D to duplicate. I'm going to save it now because I've been experiencing a bug, and if you have a bug or you know of a bug and you're trying to work through a bug, make sure you save it, because the last thing you want is it to crash. And there's a bug down here. I notice whenever I report my bugs to Buildbox, it seems to only be on my computer, which one makes sense because I don't believe that to be the case, but because no one else can recreate it, I tend to always find workarounds for bugs and never sit and wait for Buildbox to come back to me with a solution for the bugs, because if that's happened, I don't remember it, as I've usually moved on by the time. You gotta find a workflow that works for you, and for me, my workflow is to just keep going and not stopping. So that's not for everybody. Where were we? Okay, so level 7, up, down. So now we're with the left. Oh, let's just go ahead and hit duplicate, move it up here, 8, grab that, and we'll move it up. And then, see, the D doesn't work. And I can do solo mute, and then that will get rid of everything, and then I select and press D. There are ways to work around the bugs, but I usually don't wait. As we can see here, we have multiple directions, and here it's easier to see like this. The cool thing is from here you can even grab these, hit 2, and you can rotate it a little bit, which is what I like to do. Let's go ahead and move it to -30. That'll just look cool when we have a bunch of asteroids in the way and spaceships and things. Let's make it skinny again. Changing the scale size just makes it a little bit easier to see everything. You can see it like here, but you know, we have a big baseball planet that makes it tough to see. -30, +30. Okay, let's save it. Save as multiple scenes. Before we start putting objects into all these scenes, these have touch moves, debris explosion, that looks good. See, it's a planet. The planet has debris explosions. Okay. Yeah, so let's get going. And then we're gonna need to change these level names. This is primarily so that we can see what level we're seeing at the start of each level. Okay, level 1, we got a bunch of asteroids. Level 2, let's add a planet. Make this planet big, much bigger. Put it at -33 so they kind of meet at the same place. There we go. And we can have the spaceship fly through the rings. We can even add a rotation to this planet. Select it. All these should be set to 0. Now we're going to select this pin, and I believe it's supposed to move. I want to say in the Y direction. Honestly, I never know. Let's do 25. Select the world. Symbol it out. Solo mode. So go through the basics. Oh, there's that bug again. Touch and move, a very cool level 2, and it doesn't look like it's spinning. Oh, 25, make that 0. When you select the pin, you'll then want to adjust the rotation speed over here. If you don't hit that pin, you don't have these options. So watch 25, and then let's go. There we go, looks cool. Kind of moving a little bit too fast, so let's just set it to 5, and then this to 10. So it can be a maximum of 15 and a low of 5. Now, this is a planet, and we want to see if we can blow up the planet. So let's add a big asteroid over here. Both of these are enemies, and should be able to cause each other to explode. Reload because of the Mac bug, Mac Duel Monitor Bug. So we'll go to the right. See this? Didn't blow up the planet, but it did blow up the asteroid, which is cool because check this out. If we have multiple asteroids, put these at different Y coordinates, reload because of the Mac Duel Monitor bug. It looks like it totally just made the planet move, which is not what I want. So I'm gonna go in here and go in and delete this. Oh, you know what? Look at this. We don't see the collision shape. You know how we made all the collision shapes for all the asteroids? We didn't do the space stations either, but we're gonna need to do this, and we might as well do this right now. Let's see what happens if we select the mesh. What is this one? Planet 1. This mesh is a sphere, always visible. If it's not visible, it means we can't see it. And there it is right there. So let's make it 0.5, 1.5, 1.5. Oh, 1.5. We can't see it, that means it's not there. So still can't see it. There we go. Okay, let's give it a try. Reload because of the Mac Duel Monitor bug. Oh, I hit the mesh of the rings, which is not what I want. Here we can see that there's a mesh between the rings, and that will kill my character. So let's just go ahead and make this one a sphere and do 1.75 as well. 1.75. That way we can fly through the rings, no problem. I'm gonna go here and find this path point, and oh, I don't have the rotation angle. Okay, I'm gonna change this path point Z to 3, making it more of a wide turn. Oh wow, look at that, that's too wide. Yeah, there we go. Two's a little bit better. There we go. Still, the planet it's too big, so you don't even see. Always keeping an eye on the frames per second. Oh. The explosion happens, but we don't really see it, which I'm not a fan of. Maybe if we trade places, these over here, do something like that. See how that looks. No, way too far. Not what I was going for. You saw it moved away, I don't know why. So there it kind of worked. Alright, let's go ahead and make the planet kinematic. That way it's not going anywhere. Reload because of Mac Duel Monitor bug. More or less what I was going for, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to grab these asteroids. Remember, they're smaller asteroids, and then I can just place them kind of like just all over the place. I don't want to put these in the path because then your character will die and get a game over, and as we know in hyper casual games, people don't like dying. I don't make the rules, I just understand how they work. Do some copy and paste. Copy hotkeys. And yeah, this is kind of one of my favorite things to do, is just move around in the 3D world. If you select the middle between where all the connection points are, there's a little square. I don't know if you can see it right here, but it allows you to move everything. So check this out. See that square, and then you can move all of them. And yeah, you just want to move in a 3D world, deselect one and keep the others moving. Kind of just eyeball it. All this is done manually because we are again using a no-code software. There we go. Save it and check it out. Reload. Very cool. Again, these are not supposed to kill the character. Cool, so that level looks good. Let's go to the second level, level 3 I should say. And let's add a space station. And we noticed again that we want to have the big object on the outside because when the spaceship turns, the camera follows its rotation, so that's what we want to see. And here's a reminder that we need to go in and adjust the collision shapes for all of the space stations. Let's go ahead and do that now. And we can see the if collide is right there behind it. Cylinder, what do we have? 2.75 and 2. So now they're overlapping. I'm still not sure if that's good or bad, but we can play test it anyways. Here we see the collision shape is not reflective. Oh, that's because it's a different space station. Let's grab some asteroids. We want to make sure the asteroids do not collide with each other, and instead we'll be colliding with the spaceship. I'm just going to template and grab these little ones. Save just in case. Looking good. Let's test it out. I think the spaceship does have movement, a touch move, so something to keep in mind. Nice. It's going to loop so we can test it again. Okay, there we saw it just kind of float away, and we don't want that, so let's go ahead and make it kinematic so it stays in place. And get rid of the touch move, and I think I'm going to get rid of all the touch move for the planets and the space stations because, yeah, it's a good idea at first, but now it just isn't practical. Ah, you can delete it over here. That makes it easier. And let's also move all the planets to kinematic. Kinematic means that the object doesn't move around unless instructed to. Whereas in dynamic, it lives in the world and moves around by the is touch or touch move. When making a game, I often say 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And it's kind of what it feels like right now. But it's important to remember that one is always learning. Let's save it. I'm gonna give it a new file name, kinematic big objects. Again, keeping track of the steps that I'm taking along the way. In case there's a crash or something happens, something always happens, that is for certain. Maybe put a blue planet here. All right, let's play test. Cool, best score 0, current score is 0. So we need to add a scoring system. Let's do that now. Super easy. Just go get the timer node, enable timer 1 every 1 second, and then we go add point, enable. For every 1 second, we have a timer of 1, and let's go to the game UI. Here we set user text. Now we want score, current world, points, current, save. That does not look like it's in the middle. And it's in the middle. 320 is the middle. Yep, score looks good. Do we save it? Let's save it just to be safe. Add some bigger asteroids here. Cool. And why don't we add some space station here? You know, before we start adding all these objects, I think it's important to mess with the collision here. We can see that is not a good collision shape around the space station. When making this game previously, I tried to use the mesh for the space station, even ones like this, but because it's so skinny, it doesn't always register. I actually don't recommend it. We're just gonna go ahead and use cubes. Adjust them accordingly. X of 3, X of 4, that looks better. Z of 0.5, 0.25. Square collision shapes and sphere collision shapes. Cylinders are very easy to register. So that's something to always keep in mind. All objects have affected assets of all, not just enemy, because the spaceship is a character and we want the spaceship to be able to crash into the spaceship and have a game over. It's important to have affected assets all, and then if collide, affected asset enemy. Here is where the collision groups are set. What did we have for 2.5.5? Okay, go in 0.5. Now that we just created that, let's test it out as well. We're gonna wanna rotate it so we have the biggest exposure. There we go. This is at -55. Let's put it at -50 because this ends at what, 60? 66. So we just want to give it plenty of space. Hotkey 1. There we go. There we go. Sometimes I like to visually see the object go through the path so we can get a good idea of where it is in that space. 3D space, you always want a 3-point perspective. Okay, looking good. Nice. So that one works well. Solo mode and save it. Okay, let's get this. I actually really like this space object. It reminds me of the Bronx, where you have the biggest apartment complexes you've ever seen in your life that easily fit 2,000 to 5,000 people, and they're everywhere. It's cool. Okay, we are collision shape with space station number 4. Let's get in there. Cube. Cool. This one's a sphere. Obviously that's no good. Change it to cube. Shape visible. Oh, scale. Make it 2. 2.5. 2.25. Z of 0.75. Yeah. And Y of 3. Y of 2.5. 2.25. Yeah, that's good. 2.25. So let's do the same for this. Okay, so that looks good. Let's make 2 of them. Let's make 3 of them. Let's make 4 of them. Okay, cool. Let's do like this. Wait, is this the ending? Oh crap, I thought that was the beginning. Okay, let's reorganize ourselves. There we go. Now, what is the space station for? Let's go and make sure this is, okay, cool, no, it's touched. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, looks good. I feel like that one could be higher. Let's just add some asteroids. That one fatter, not that fat. A little bit messed up because you could oh, something's going on. I'm gonna save it because whenever things start acting weird, you could lose everything. Okay, look at that. These are not dragging onto the screen. Definitely save a new file. I'm gonna reload everything because it's important to pay attention when Buildbox is not working properly. Essentially, the game engine is kind of always in beta. It's not ready for super mass adoption yet, which is very frustrating for anybody getting into it and not aware of that, because it could easily happen that everything crashes and then you lose everything and then you're like, and yeah, save it. So we're closing it and we're gonna reopen it, give it another go. Get in, level 4, and let's see if we can just drag an asteroid onto the screen. Okay, see, it's working now. That's big. Later I'll go in and just add a bunch of more smaller asteroids all over the place for that dynamic engagement for the player, but right now I'm just gonna add big ones so that we can make sure that these buildings blow up, because that's the cool stuff. I like to do the cool stuff first. All right, save. All right. Nice, nice, perfect. Okay, cool. Next, because I think it's cool, we're gonna add some little dudes. No, I already got that guy. This one, like the green aliens. Let's go ahead and put these dudes in the apartments. We gotta make them smaller. And this is just a fun way to add polish to a game and give it that extra attention to detail. Lock that space station so we don't move it, and here we go. Let's get in there. Actually copy him, and I'm gonna add him on the top as well. These aliens are just static images. They don't take up too much processing power. Cool. I wanted to make sure that the spaceship still has a game over. Sometimes when you're playtesting, the things that worked before don't work when you've made a bunch of changes. It's always good to just test everything always, which is a lot of work, but what are you gonna do? Nice. Cool, love it. Here we got another level, and let's add some more planets. Did we add an orange planet yet? I don't remember. This one's going down. So we're gonna make this one like super big. Go down. That's actually not too bad. It does look weird. That looks a little weird. Yeah, doesn't look great, but doesn't look horrible. Some big asteroids up in here. All right, let's see how that works. Nice. Cool. That works out well. Add a space station. One thing to keep in mind is that the path node, when you're moving up it, because the camera follows the rotation of the spaceship, you'll have a lot of area in the upper area of the screen as opposed to the middle or the bottom. So that's where we want to put objects so that we don't just have blank space when the player is playing. Let's go ahead and add a little planet as well. We need to also add collision shapes to Space Station 2 and Space Station 3. So let's do that now. We got a cube, like this one should be a cylinder. Cool, that looks good. So we got cylinder 1.5, cylinder 1.5. 1.5, what was it? 1.25, 1.25, increase Y 0.5, cool, so that one's good. Space station, this one I think we should also use a cylinder. Okay, that looks good. Do it the same over here. Let's add asteroids. These skinny ones I'm making fatter by increasing the Z, and let's go into the world. Make everything look good. Again, got to keep in mind how the spaceship is moving and that the camera is rotating with the movement of the spaceship. I don't see the collision shape on planet 5, so let's inspect that. Set to always. Okay, yeah, I don't see it. There it is. You can kind of see it. Looks like there was not an explosion when I blew up the planet. Okay, there we go. Cool. And again, I'm gonna go through all these levels and add little smaller asteroids everywhere. But these big ones are mainly so that you can take out the planets, the space stations, and they're easier to click on with your finger. The smaller asteroids will work identical to the big asteroids. You'll have to focus your touch more. There's less of a touch area. You can touch the smaller asteroids. I'm not sure how the camera's gonna look here, so that's kind of what I'm curious about. Something exploded, not sure what. It's actually not too bad. There's a little bit of the object being in your way. Nothing too horrible. Then maybe put a space station, put it at an angle. Go adjust space station number 6 Always visible. Whoa. Okay, we're gonna need to flip that rotation. Cool, looks good. Go ahead and do the same for here. What was it? Negative 90y. And 3, 1.53 minus 0.25. And I believe this planet is good to go, but let's double check it. Yeah, you can see it just on the edges. And I want to make it a little bit bigger, so let's go 1.25. See how that looks. Ah, cube. No, that's not good. Sphere. Cool, that one's good to go. Now we just need some big asteroids. Oh, gonna save it. Kind of felt a little laggy. I thought everything was gonna crash, and then then you would see me cry. No, just kidding. I don't cry. Okay, let's go like this. I mean, I do, not over GameDev. Okay, too much personal info. Let's focus on this level. Looking good. 1, 2, 3, and I want one more asteroid to like, just in case. Cool. We got. Have we done the red planet yet? I can't remember. Let's grab the red. Okay, looks like that collision sphere is definitely too big, so we're gonna need to edit that now. Okay, that's the wrong collision shape, and 0.75? Yeah, 0.5. Yeah, 0.5 looks like the best. Maybe 0.6? Oh wait, yeah, no, I don't see it, so that's not a good sign. So 0.75. Oh wait, nope, I still don't see it. Okay, so 0.75 looks like it's the best. And we're gonna want this to rotate like this. Let's grab the rotation node. We'll set it to X, 15. See how that looks. Save it. This is actually tilted at an angle. Let's get rid of that. But I don't see it moving. I'm gonna guess it's the Z. Rotate 0, 15. Let's try that. Cool. I'm gonna make this bigger. This way we can crash satellites into the planet. How cool is that? We'll have to adjust the collision shape, of course, but by now we are pros. Collision shape. I'm gonna try to use the mesh. We haven't been using the mesh. Yeah, let's give it a try, see how it works out. Satellite 3. And if collide, yeah, I think that's good. Let's move it up a little bit. Not that much. Yeah. Here may still cause that to register. I'm not sure, but let's try it out. Okay, so we're moving up here. Let's give it a test. If the planet blows up and the satellite blows up, I'm gonna go take a bathroom break. Nada. Looks like the planet eventually blew up. Look here. The exhaust is only to the right. That's, oh, it looks like it evened out. But the satellite didn't explode. What is it, satellite 3? So that means that did not explode. I'm not down with that, and I think it's because of this mesh. So let's go to cube, 3.53, 3.53, up 0.25. These are all aligned. Let's test it again. Reload because the Duel Monitor Mac Bug. Nice, they both exploded. Let's save it. Save as satellite mesh, no, satellite cube. I'm gonna test that again, just looking at the angle. It's not bad, but I would like, let's look at it again. Okay, so we see the right of the planet before we see the left. So let's put this over here and maybe, yeah, maybe even there. And it looks like this path point has an angle to it. Yeah, let's get rid of that. Oh, no, Control Z. Oh wait, there is no rotation to it. Okay, so yeah, we can add a rotation. No, let's take a look. I'm gonna move this more over here. Cool, and then we're gonna add other asteroids as well. This big apartment complex. Oh, you know what? Let's grab the apartment complex from the previous. That way we can get all of the space dudes as well. So like that, yep. And copy, paste, perfect. And so like this, 2 for the rotation, and like that. Move it back a little bit. Nice. And let's grab that asteroid and get it out of the way. Okay, looking good. Level 9, put that there. And then we can also add a big planet, like the sun planet. Let's check out the collision on this one. So 1.5 maybe, 1.3, 1.4. Do the same for here, and we're good to go. Let's take a look at it. Oh, gonna collide. Nope. So we don't even see the sun planet, which is not cool. And here we can see why. It's just way too out there. Now we can see it going through, so we know it's a better location. I'm gonna make this even bigger. That way it can't be missed. And then let's get some big asteroids. Okay. Cool, so now I'm gonna go here and select the template, and we have a bunch of different asteroids, and let's grab some more. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, so let's get number 4 up in here. I'll use that 0.4, 0.25, and make that one 0.25. Cool, and 1, 2, 3. Here I'm just making a bunch of smaller asteroids, and again, these are too small, so alright, let's save it. See how big these asteroids are. So this one's too small. Oh, and it didn't even kill the character, so I think 0.5 is probably the smallest we want. I don't like that one, and I don't like that one. Okay, so let's take these are 0.4. We're just gonna add these smaller asteroids to all the different levels now, except for level 1. Level 1 is the introduction, and they're all the way up over here. Oh, no. All right, delete, let's try it again, copy and paste, template, select. When we copy from one scene to another, it's kind of a good idea to have it by the start, and then it should copy in the same location as other scenes. And then from here, just add, copy and paste again, get rid of that space so we can see better. We don't need them everywhere, we just need it to look like there's more than 5 asteroids. And we want them all at different XYZ coordinates to give it a random feel. Remember that all these asteroids are automatically spinning anyways, which is kind of cool. Do that, let's save it. Okay. Let's keep at it. This I'm all just doing it by feel. Like, how does it look? Do I think this works well? And then I just place it wherever. I have to say this is probably one of my favorite things. It's just moving around a 3D world and placing objects and trying to like create a good experience based on what I think is cool. If I was using Unity, then you can randomly generate everything and just be programming code and done, but we are using no code here, so everything is by hand and I don't mind. The biggest thing to look for is looking at the asteroids in all angles, because every angle matters. One angle it may look cool, and then the other angle you see that the asteroid is way out of place and will never be seen. That needs to be adjusted. Like here, this would never be seen, so let's move it up. Again, I'm not putting him in the path. I don't want the character to die, but if you're swiping around, then you can die. Hyper-casual games are made to be easy. Look at this one, it's way too out there, never gonna be seen. And a good way to check is just, again, to see the paths go through the object. That'll give you a good 3-dimensional reference point of where everything is. Okay, so this is looking real good. Let's review all the levels one last time, and I'm just gonna do 360. Like, look, here we can see that these 3 are just like way too away from the path. I don't want them to be a little bit closer. One of the last things we need to do is create a start scene, and this is because when the game loads, the game is already in play, and we want to have a start screen so that the player is able to press play and then begin the game. And here's what we're going to do that. Let's take this world and we're going to copy it, and let's call this one start world. This is a 3D world. Okay, so we want to go here to the start world, and we can delete all these. Hold on, let me save it first. We're going to go to the start world. The start world is going to have the start scene UI. Let's hit this navigation button, and this is click to start, set to default, and then this is going to go here. So this world will load and you won't be able to do anything other than to click to begin the game, but we got some cool stuff here. Yeah, let's take this image, created this in Photoshop. Cool, looks good. Also, we're going to want to add a leaderboard. Oh wait, let's do this. Navigation button over here and image. And this will just be a leaderboard. Leaderboards are pretty easy to set up. We go to game services and then project settings, and then here you just put the bundle info, and you want to make sure this syncs up with your app store as well. And I believe it's under app information. Let me confirm that. So we see I've already got screenshots set up, app information. In the prepare down here, you're gonna select game center, and you're gonna want the leaderboard ID to match the leaderboard here, and then they'll sync up, which is really cool to have, and I strongly recommend it. Before you publish to the app store, make sure you use encryption. Cloning is already a big issue in the mobile game industry, and people have been able to crack crack Buildbox games before. This just makes it a little bit more difficult for them. When it comes to game versions, I always do like 001, 002. That way, I mean, you saw how many versions I made just on this setting. You always want to be playtesting on your phone like every single time, because the one time that you don't test on your phone, you'll miss something and the game won't work the way you like. So I promise you that. Here is a cool, we can just input an image up here. This is where the app icon will go, or something like that, and then you have an image. I just take screenshots. I don't spend that much time. The way I make my games is just super fast. It's all about learning the ins and outs of Buildbox so that I can get better at making games fast. I'm not trying to make that one-hit game because I have different goals. Here you can add mob, which is super easy. There's also Iron Source. From what I've heard from a lot of people, they're always looking for different ad mediation tools, all these. Again, I'm not trying to make the next big hit game. I'm just trying to get better at making one game better at a time. I just do ad mob. I probably make maybe like $10 a month on ads from all my games. You know, it's not that big of a deal because I consider myself a beginner. And then Facebook Analytics. All this is super easy to do. Facebook Analytics is really easy. Just go to the developer portal in Facebook. And then I also add Game Analytics, just because there's standard SDKs that you need to familiarize yourself with. Here, let's do something cool. Here we have camera animation. I think it's over 1 second, so let's see what that looks like. Okay, so the spaceship is moving. Let's disconnect that. And again, this is just for Space Castle 2 in the start world. We want to make sure we're in the start world, not the 3D world. So disconnect that, and we want to delete it. Sometimes green nodes automatically just activate, and that's not what we want here. And let's go ahead and change it to Z45, see how that looks. Okay, so that's not what we want. We're in the start world, and I want to move it up like this. This is what we see in the camera, so we want this. Yeah, and select the camera over here, put it in the middle. Okay, looks good, looks good, looks good. And let's see how it looks. We're gonna need to move that to 5 seconds, and let's try -45. Looks good, and we'll also maybe do like a zoom out. Oh, I don't know what any of these are, so what is this? 5. I'm gonna do -10. Let's see what that does. Camera. Oh my god, did I save it? Doing too much with the camera rotation. I don't think I saved it. Let's take a look. Last save was at 10 minutes ago. That's kind of a bummer, but whatever. Okay, is this the start world? Okay, we don't need any of this. And actually, let me go ahead and open up. Oh, and now we're just getting consistent crashes. That's not a good sign. Let me close it. So here we can see this is what I have, and I'm trying to recreate that, but I don't remember where I put. Oh, here we go. It's right there. All right, so let's do that. I just created a separate object. Let's connect these, and looks like everything got wiped out. So let's just do it all again. The upside to doing everything over again is whatever you forgot, you get to learn again. And I just always try to look at the positives of every outcome. That helps you keep moving forward. All right, let's grab that image. Where did I put it? There we go. Here it is. 0.6 maybe? Yeah, that looks good. Navigation button, default, connect those, save it. Hold on. Save a new file name just in case. Have a navigation button. Grab that leaderboard there, make it a little bit bigger. Function game services. Also, I'm gonna go to the game over and add another navigation button. This one will just be invisible, and it will be actually review to 4. So every 4 times you hit the game over, you'll get one of those, would you like to rate this app? And this is a really good hide for interval. What does that mean? I don't know. This is a really good thing to just have it so you can get your players to rank your game. That really helps Apple know that users like your game. Let's focus on the start scene. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna duplicate this dude. Oh, we got moved all the way down, so let's move it all the way up. Static. Let's call this static. Okay, so we're just gonna delete that and put this dude here. 0.5. This one shouldn't move. Let's get rid of this. We don't need this or this, and doesn't need this. I kind of want to make this a little bit longer. Yeah, cool. And go here, grab camera rotation, set X to 45 and time duration 5. Just get rid of single launch. Look, these are all connected. Let's save it. Okay, so we're going to go into this world, get rid of all this, delete, and change the camera view to kind of something like this. Yeah. Select the camera and now let's give it a shot, see how it looks. And I might want to delete that, add the space back. Just trying to get it to look, let's make it 30. Yeah, that looks good. Select that. Let's go ahead and put some asteroids floating. Check it out. And then collecting play, yeah, looks good. We're gonna need to add the space back into this world. And let's check it out. And we look good. Game complete. We got these moving. I think I want those debris through 1 second. Keep an eye on the frame rate. That is way too far out there. Ah, I died. Oh, look at the score. Yeah, game is looking good. Level 1 looks like, well, level 1 is supposed to be super easy, but I should add more of those simple asteroids in level 1. And again, labeling everything lets me know what levels I need to work on. And I'll be sure to get rid of the level label once the game goes live. Ah, my God. Okay, let's see how this looks. Oh, that's great. No, oh. Okay, we are looking good here. Again, always test on your phone. The first thing I noticed when testing on my phone was that I had to adjust the sensitivity. And that's how I came with the 0.25 for the touch move on the sensitivity. Okay, nice. All right, I want to take this as well. Leader board, take that, copy it, and also put it in the game over scene. I might change this to a replay image. But yeah, we are good to publish on the App Store now. This should be available by now on the App Store and on the Play Store. Play this game. Let me know how it works on your phone. You can create something just like this. You don't have to do spaceships. You could do a balloon flying through the air. You can do an airplane. You can do whatever. I just did spaceships because I like sci-fi. That's my thing. Yeah, this is good. Came up with this idea and I made it in like a week or two with TikTok, and it's a cool thing where you can have an idea and just make it happen and put it on your phone. And then I already have the next game idea I want to make. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. So cool beans. Thanks for following along video. I hope this video was educational and informative. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. And if you would like to see me make a certain kind of game, please leave comments below. Until next time, stay safe out there. Peace.